sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with ESPN, the Total Sports Cable Network.
It has been an abysmal year for ESPN, the worldwide leader in mass layoffs, absurd Twitter policy, stealing content from Reddit, benching Robert Lee, my disappointing fantasy season, and don't get me started on how they dismantled the Big East Conference. No, I don't have a grudge, why do you ask? With 150 employees let go this week, now is as good a time as any to look at the current state of affairs at ESPN and explore why the network is scrambling to cut costs. Before I get to ESPN, let's look at the larger picture. Americans are cutting the cord at an ever-increasing rate. Almost 17 million canceled their subscriptions last year, and another 22 million have done so this year. The rate of decline is expected to double over the next 4 years. Audiences are turning to streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, and live TV distributors such as Sling and PlayStation Vue, leaving the major players out in the cold. Now let's move on to subscriber fees, how much you pay your provider monthly for access to individual channels. Each cable station has a different subscriber fee based on their viewership and the price of their content. CNN costs you 61 cents, USA Network 98 cents, Disney Channel $1.61, TNT $2.02. Meanwhile, ESPN weighs in at $7.86 a month. ESPN subscriber fees total $7.6 billion in revenue annually, and the network makes more than 60% of its revenue from these fees as compared to every other channel in existence, which makes the bulk of their money from selling advertising space. ESPN's absurd subscriber fee means they are impacted more by cord cutting than every other cable channel. ESPN subscriber fee has risen drastically over the past half-decade, from $4.69 in 2011 to $6.04 in 2014 and $7.86 this year. Why has ESPN's fee gone up so much? Well, they've gone on a spending spree in the past half-decade, with competitors NBC Sports and Fox Sports driving up how much ESPN was willing to shell out for live content. In 2011, ESPN signed a new contract for Monday Night Football, with their annual commitment rising from $1.1 billion to $1.9 billion a year. The next year, they doubled their Major League Baseball spending, going from $350 million to $700 million a year. The newly formed college football playoffs added another $608 million a year to their bill. And finally, in 2014, the NBA's new television package brought costs from $485 million to $1.4 billion a year. This year alone, ESPN is spending $7.3 billion on content, more than any other network or streaming service.
Netflix, you're greenlit. Who am I speaking with?
And where was ESPN hoping to get these funds from? Your subscriber fee. However, ESPN did not anticipate the cord-cutting movement. The network peaked at 100 million subscribers in 2011. 2 years later, it was down slightly to 99 million. And at this point, the bottom fell out. In 2017, ESPN subscriber base has dropped to 87 million, a loss of 12 million in the past 4 years. This adds up to around 800 million in lost subscription revenue a year for ESPN. With cord cutting expected to accelerate over the next several years, ESPN's funds will continue to dry up. It doesn't help that ratings for ESPN's programming, both live sports and studio commentary, has dropped in recent years, negatively impacting ad revenue. There's a dozen reasons for this, but none relevant to the argument I'm making today. In 2015, the Walt Disney Company, who has owned ESPN since 1996, demanded that the network cut costs by $100 million in 2016 and $250 million this year to maintain a steady profit margin. And with so many funds tied up in television contracts, the workforce became disposable and the mass layoffs began. 300 jobs were cut in June of 2013 before the scope of ESPN's problems became clear. Another 350 jobs cut in October 2015, and 250 people terminated this year in 2 rounds, including dozens of well-known personalities at the network. And it's still not going to be enough to stop the bleeding. So how is ESPN trying to bring people back? Well, by telling reporters they're not allowed to break news on Twitter. Instead, they must now break news first on an ESPN platform before tweeting it. It is absurd that ESPN thinks they can increase traffic by avoiding what has become the preferred method of rapid communication in today's world.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Next spring, Disney will launch ESPN Plus, a standalone streaming service, because that's the flavor of the day. A price has not yet been announced for the service, but assuming it follows the same logic as ESPN subscription fees, it will not be cheap. What else can ESPN do in the short term? Honestly, I think they need to find a way out of their ironclad sports contracts. Cutting the workforce is a band-aid. It's these massive television contracts signed years ago that are dragging down ESPN's bottom line. Monday Night Football costs the network almost $2 billion a year for around 60 hours of content, and that will continue until 2021. Unless ESPN can find a way out of these absurd deals, they will continue to flounder financially. Longtime Disney CEO Bob Iger, who has maintained ESPN's future lies with Disney, is expected to retire in 2019. Will the new leadership share Iger's vision? There have been rumors that Disney may seek to spin off ESPN into its own entity or sell the network outright. I believe this is a long shot at the moment, since ESPN remains profitable for the House of Mouse. However, should ESPN's profits continue to erode, Disney may be forced to take substantial action and remove ESPN from their stock. In conclusion, ESPN's drive to outspend the competition has backfired. They have locked themselves into staggering financial commitments as audiences turn away from rising cable bills. Only time will tell if they can dig themselves out of this mess, or if Disney will end up needing to move their sports enterprise altogether. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching this video. Please let's have a conversation in the comments below. What do you think about the current state of ESPN and their future? Subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already, and stay tuned for more here on TV Junkie.